You're listening to a Soul One podcast.
Okay, seconds ago, Taylor, you finished the trailer for The Conjuring, The Last Rites. That's what I want to talk about first. We're both big Conjuring fans.
Of course.
We like the whole universe. Certainly my favorite horror series, I'd say. We've both, generally we review all the Conjuring films, everything that comes out on here. So we're definitely going to be talking about and seeing The Conjuring, The Last Rites. You just watched the trailer. Let's get your reactions.
Mike, it didn't seem scary.
Yeah. And it had a sort of kind of
the scariest thing was the subtitles, like on September 5th.
Yeah.
Find out why this was their last case. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good setup, but nothing in the trailer.
They did too much in the trailer. I would have released a 1-minute trailer to tease that mainly had that text, but then like maybe one or two like spooky, slow, scary shots. Like that build up as find out why this was their last case is scary and interesting, but I think less would have been more in this.
Oh yeah, way too much was happening. None of it seems scary. I would have just said, I would have done exactly what you said, like a 1 minute, and honestly not show anything except their facial reactions.
Or like a slow pan of their room of artifacts.
Right.
You know, that might be kind of interesting to slowly pan and wondering, will something happen? Will something happen? You know, I think less would have been more. And I think with The Conjuring, this entire franchise has had its ups and downs. When they're up, they're up. Like when it's really
they're
good,
like
it's solid.
It's like a bad relationship, Mike. When it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad.
And really terrible. And I think what's interesting about this movie is it is coming off, I think, one of their weaker films.
The Devil Made Me Do It, or Nun 2.
Both of them, really. The Devil Made Me Do It and Nun 2, I think, kind of paled in comparison to everything that's come before. And this, I think, could have been a real opportunity for them to come back and do something a little bit more on the side of being scary.
It did not make me excited to see this movie.
No, and I think they're too caught up in being too quote unquote mainstream so that everybody comes to see it, and too kind of Hollywood. And I think they need to get back to being a little more grassroots horror. The first two Conjuring movies are very small movies, if you think about it.
Or even Annabelle 3.
Annabelle 3, very small, contained movie. Some of their better movies are very
Haunted house
small.
movies.
I would even argue the first Nun movie, which takes place just at this like one location.
It's a haunted convent.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. And I think they lost their way a little bit, and they've gotten themselves a bit too big. I really think they have to go back and really focus on something small. Now, it's the first trailer. We don't know, like trailers in movies, we know they're not necessarily perfect. No. So,
but what they showed in the trailer, Mike, none of that to me looked particularly interesting. We also know, like, the franchise has been building up to connecting the Warrens to the nun, right?
Yeah.
So, or like the demon that's like behind the nun, whatever. So like we already know that the last case is going to be about that. So why show us the other stuff, like the wedding dress and I don't know. I think it was convoluted. Interestingly, the original writer director, what's his name? Mike, do you know off the top of your head? Something Wan, James Wan.
Oh, James Wan.
So James Wan departed from the franchise but stayed on to produce.
That's right.
And so fans were hoping, especially because of exactly what you described, Mike, the last couple Conjuring movies have really gone downhill. Fans were really hoping, myself included, and probably you feel this way, that James Wan would come back to write and direct the final one. And it sounds like the writer from The Devil Made Me Do It has written
Yeah,
this one.
that's right.
So,
He did
yeah.
not come back, which I think there was a lot of hope that he would. Um, and I think that it would have been really great for him to come back and kind of
Mike,
end
if
the series.
if I launched a cinematic universe and I knew that this was going to be the last quote unquote like Warrens movie, because we're probably going to see more Nun movies. We might see like kind of one-offs. I think is kind of the take. I mean, it's too much of a cash cow for them to be like, we're not making any more Conjuring movies. But in
Sure.
terms of like following the Warrens, this is definitely the last um Conjuring specific movie. I don't know how to describe it because I'm assuming most of our listeners are aware of the Conjuring universe, but essentially there's Conjuring movies, which within the Conjuring universe, the Warrens, and there's kind of like offshoots. So from what I understand, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's going to continue to be offshoots like the Annabelle movies, the Nun movies, these ones that are like loosely connected but don't feature the Warrens directly, whereas the Conjuring movies are about the Warrens.
That's right.
They factor in very large hugely. So,
Yeah. And I don't think they've ruled out the Warrens cameoing here and there.
right,
Like, I
but
don't
we're
think
not
they've
going to get
said
any
that.
more Warren movies. But
That's right.
all that to say, if that's like, if I had launched this cinematic universe, I knew that we were wrapping up essentially one storyline, I would come back. Are you like, what would prevent you from coming back? That's what I don't understand. Like, you know,
Nothing.
the fans want it. You're producing this movie.
He
What,
doesn't
you're too
need
big?
money. Like, yeah, like it's not money. He doesn't need the money. He did the Aquaman
Do
movies.
it
He's
for the
done other
love.
things.
Do it for the
He
love
would
of the
just,
movie.
yeah. There's nothing that would stop me, unless I had like a real bad experience or I'm really on horrible terms with all the producers and like
The
there's some kind of,
studio.
yeah, like the studio, like there's some kind of issue there that we don't know about. Other than that, I really would come back. So I don't know why James Wan's not involved in this.
Well, I think he's producing, Mike. I think he is.
Is he still just producing? Okay.
Yeah, and I think he produced all of them. Like, he had to
Yeah.
produce some credit
But
for
I
all
mean,
of the movies.
I just don't know how involved he is. Is he slapping his name on it or is
That's
he
true.
like heavily involved? We don't know.
Like, they have to
Um,
give him a producing credit because it's his
yeah.
storyline.
That sometimes does happen. Like sometimes producing credits are someone just gave some money back on their salary once, but the part of the deal was you get a producing credit for all time. Happens on TV shows a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his involvement is, but I'm not excited either, and I want to be because this is kind of the last one. I think this universe is great, but it just doesn't seem scary at all.
No, it didn't. Well, you listened to me watch it.
I did.
You didn't see me, but you listened. I had no reaction. There was no
No, that's it.
gasp.
I made a joke before that we should record for the part of the podcast of you reacting, but then I realized, well, you probably won't react anyway. And then you were absolutely silent, and oh, okay, that was the right
There was
choice.
nothing, like no goose pimples, nothing. I don't.
No,
And then as I was watching it, I thought, okay, if I saw this in movie theaters, like, you know, like how you used to go to the movie theaters, Mike, to see a horror movie, and they would show like a
sure,
bunch of horror trailers beforehand,
yeah,
and they were like scary and would like get you in the mood. So I'm like, okay, would my would my experience of this trailer be different if I was like waiting to watch a horror movie? No, there was nothing scary in the trailer.
mm-hmm.
Maybe because like I know we've been like teeing up for them to connect the nun to this storyline, that I'm like, it removes some of the mystery. Like, they're gonna have to really rely on jump scares because we already know about the nun. We know what she looks like. She's not really scary. We know what Annabelle looks like. You know what I mean? Like, we know what all of the quote unquote ghosts are. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've been Conjuring
Desensitized.
overload. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's it. I've been desensitized to the universe, and so these things aren't
Yeah.
scary.
I mean, there aren't a lot of scary movies that scare me to begin with. There are just some that I can
But the
say,
original
okay, the
Conjuring movie
first
is
time.
scary.
Yeah, the original Conjuring movie is scary, and the first time through some movies, I can sit here and be like, oh, even though I wasn't scared, I liked the atmosphere, I liked the
Yeah.
tone, or I really liked what they were doing, et cetera, which does happen a lot in this universe. For this first trailer, it did not give me that same level of interest where, oh, well, it looks like it's going to be a compelling story. Like Devil Made Me Do It did have the sense of, oh, this might be a really interesting story. Like it did have,
They just
it was
fumbled the
giving you,
bag.
they just dropped it. This one, I don't even have a sense of what the story is. I have no
And
sense of the story at all.
you made a really good point that the first movie or other movies in the franchise, but particularly the first movie, because it's so contained. If it is a classic, it's a classic haunted house movie with a possession twist, or like with a possession,
That's
and the
right.
movie definitely had atmosphere. And I don't know if it's because it had a smaller budget, tonally they did, like James Wan directed and wrote that movie, so he had like a very tight vision. This movie, exactly how you described, Mike, like this is a popcorn movie, commercialized. There is no atmosphere or tone to this trailer whatsoever. I also had to like put up the brightness on my phone, and then I realized like, no, my phone is already like pretty high on brightness, so it wasn't even like I couldn't even see what was happening
Right.
in parts of it. So like ugly cinematography. We'll see, we'll definitely review it. It comes
First
out
trailer, we don't know. I'm gonna see it. Like you said, we're reviewing it. We're gonna see it. But like that first trailer was
disappointing.
just disappointing. Now again, it's 2 minutes long. We've seen not even a percentage of the movie yet. So there's lots of time for
And
things to change, and
the good news is, Mike, it's only up from here. When they start so
that's true.
poorly,
That's
our
true.
expectations are so low, we're going to be blown out of the water, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Um, I when choosing a movie this week, I just your comment about bad relationships talks about a little bit connects to my movie. I when I was looking to choose a movie this week, I almost convinced myself to watch A Simple Favor 2 or Another Simple Favor. I was like, well,
Has it come
that
out?
would be yeah. It just came out. It just came out
Oh,
on Amazon Prime. Like
oh,
it's an Amazon Prime movie, direct to Prime.
great.
Um, I almost convinced myself thinking like that might be funny for people because I hate it so much. But then I'm like, I don't want to put myself through torture. I do that enough
Yeah. You're an
in life.
adult.
I don't. I can. Yeah, I can choose not to do this.
You
So
did not
I threw on
consent
my
to
movie
be
instead.
abused by A
That's
Simple
right.
Favor
That's
2.
right. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna throw on We Live in Time,
What a
and
name.
that'll be different. Um, and I definitely don't regret my decision. Uh, I don't know anything about Another Simple Favor, but again, that bad relationships both ties into We Live in Time and the original Simple Favor, which was just an absolute mess. And if you're out there saying I love that movie, honestly, I think that this says something really bad about you. And I hope you find help. I really do.
I think I have also I could be wrong. I think I have a connection to the Conjuring universe, um, because the movie I watched, I chose Nonnas, and Linda Cardellini. I did not know that was her name. She's a very recognizable face. Had
Oh
no
yes.
idea. Is she not in that one with, yep, The Curse of La Llorona, which
Mm-hmm.
was not a good one.
No.
Um so there you go. That is my connection to The Conjuring, and you also kind of, you have a connection to The Conjuring this week with almost choosing the abusive
Almost.
relationship movie, and then
Almost.
yeah.
I went
Not
with
to
the
I know people
emotional trauma movie is what I went with.
oh, and another one. And I know people don't come for me about, I'm not belittling actual abusive relationships.
No.
I think
That
our
was
listeners
obvious.
know our
That was
sense of humor,
obvious.
but I
Yeah.
have to say it
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
because
That was obvious.
we live in time. And
We're both well on the record on this show about that. So if
yeah,
someone comes at you for that, I can send them many episodes about us complaining about the treatment of certain individuals and other people not doing anything about it. Probably actors that those people love, to be honest. But anyway,
Mhm.
that's just the way
It is what it is.
things go.
So, Mike, before we get into movie reviews, I don't know. We
Uh-huh.
literally normally we do like a pre-show debrief, but this episode you wanted to get my reactions
Oh, right into
completely
it. The minute you
hot.
finish the trailer, I press
Yeah.
record.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other business you want to discuss today on the show, and if not, do we have any fan questions?
Other business.
I didn't know if you had like another headline you wanted me to give
Oh,
a hot
great. No,
take
no,
on,
great,
or
great question. What other business? I don't know. What's going on in your life, Taylor? Like,
not a whole heck of a
just,
lot.
yeah, yeah. We'll just,
It's I don't know what the weather's like out your way, but it is like the first hot day in Loyalist
it's,
Township.
I would say it's warm, but there's a nice cool breeze, which is keeping things kind of nice. But I mean, it's 24 degrees out, but it doesn't feel like that because there's a nice cool breeze.
Yeah, it's probably around the same mark where we are, but our heat pump has been broken since the winter, and the people keep saying, "Oh, we're gonna come and fix it. We're gonna come and fix it," but they haven't come to fix it yet. And so now I'm getting like stressed about like this is only the start of summer and my heat
That
pump
is
isn't working.
stressful, though.
So
Yeah, like that especially like to kick off. You just want, you want the summer to go
they were
well.
like, "Oh, we have to wait before it's like above a certain temperature to come put the new part in to make sure it works." Well, it went from what, like 7 degrees to 24 degrees within like 2 days, and it's like, please just come. So anyways, that's completely not movie related, but you did ask what was going on in my life, Mike, and that's top priority
And
right
we
now.
talked about the weather, which is always great topic of interest. No, I have nothing else movie related to go through other than, yeah, it
Yeah.
was really just the Conjuring trailer was kind of the new thing. I'm kind of waiting for summer movie season to kind of really kick off here, but no, nothing else.
I did see that the
Nothing else popping.
Madonna biopic, Mike, which was supposed to be a movie, is now going to be a mini series on
No,
Netflix. I saw
who's
that this
playing
week.
Madonna?
I saw rumors that the girl from what's that? There was a Netflix show about the Russian girl who pretended to be a German heiress. This is based on a true story. Oh, I forget
Hmm,
her name. And she also
that
was
does sound familiar.
and she was in another show. I am literally I can like she has like tight curly hair, and
Oh,
she
I
was
think I
in
know what you're talking
a
about.
Wolfman
Blonde.
movie.
Yeah, yes, Wolfman. I know who you're talking about. I can't
Yeah.
think of her name, but I know exactly
That's
what you're
I
talking
gave
about.
people three media things you can
You
find
got enough. You
through
can
that.
Google her.
You can Google it. But she's been rumored to be attached,
Okay.
but like
Okay.
who knows? But she was in the Ozarks. Was Ozarks also in Netflix?
Ozark is Netflix. Yes, I have not seen it.
So she clearly has a relationship with Netflix. So I wouldn't be surprised if this rumor materializes.
Yeah.
And also I could see her playing Madonna. So we'll
Okay.
see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. If it's who I'm
that's the
thinking
news
of,
I
I could
saw.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's who I'm thinking of, I definitely could see that. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think there's much going on in the movie world, in the real world. I think we're all just kind of waiting for the next day to start, I guess. How everyone else feels. So yeah, I think we can dive into our movie reviews. I can also look for fan questions.
Okay.
So spoiler alert, I didn't look before. So I could definitely look around. But yeah, we got some movies to talk
Poke
about.
around.
We Live in Time, Nonnas. Why don't I poke around for some fan questions that we can maybe do at the end? And Taylor, why don't you get us started with your reviews of Nonnas?
Uh, it's kind of the weird in between season, Mike. I don't know how you feel, but there isn't like a ton of new movies. I could be wrong, but Known as weirdly popped up on my radar, and it's a Netflix original movie. It came out May 9th, so literally just this past weekend, and it coincided with Mother's Day, which makes sense because this movie is about grandmothers and mothers. And so obviously longtime listeners of the show will know that I have a soft spot for immigrant stories about grandmothers. This
Mm-hmm.
should come as no surprise to longtime listeners of the show. I was very close to my Baba, who is my Russian grandmother. She passed away in 2019. And so I have an affinity for these stories that feature grandmas, but particularly if the grandma is an immigrant. So this movie, I was not expecting. I knew a little bit about the premise going in. So it's based on a true story, and it's about Vince Vaughn, weirdly. I don't know. This feels weird to me that Vince Vaughn is in this movie, but why not? So Vince Vaughn's mother passes away, and he gets a little bit of life insurance money and he invests it in a restaurant. And his idea for the restaurant is that Nonnas, Italian grandmothers, will cook the menu. So like they're not professional chefs, but they're grandmas cooking the food that you know and love. And this is based on a true story about a guy who like actually got a restaurant together, and it's exactly how it sounds. Grandmas from different countries rotate. I don't know
Mm.
if it's like daily or weekly, and essentially the menu rotates with the grandmothers, and they cook the food of their homelands. So I knew a little. I knew that basic premise, Mike. I did not expect to ugly cry from the start of this movie until the end of this movie.
Oh
This
wow.
movie made me cry, and I had to like choke back sobs as like George is napping beside me. So that I it's hard for me to give this a objective, is that the right word? I always mix up objective and subjective. It's hard for me to give an objective review
Yeah, that's
because
the right.
this
Yeah, objective is right.
yeah, because this is about immigrant grandmas. And so like obviously I like
You have a
feel
tiny
very
bit of a bias there.
yes,
There's a bit of a bias that comes to play.
exactly. And like the movie is about like well, a lot some of the movie is about like it's never too late to start over, like which is a timely message. Like that message is important. But the larger message sort of being that, or maybe it's not the larger message, but like the message I took away is that you grandmothers um they like hold these like cultural memories, and people want to like go back to being fed by the person who loves you the most in the world, but like they can't if their grandmother has passed away. So this
Mm-hmm.
man, the Vince Vaughn character, is trying to like give that to people. And I like obviously I was choking up, like, oh, I just wish I could eat my Baba's food one more
Mm-hmm.
time. Like, and the idea that, you know, like that like cultural memory like passes on like when
Mm-hmm.
these people pass away, and like
Mm-hmm.
for him it's like his narrative is spurred on by the fact that like his mother has passed, so like he's the last in this chain. Anyways, obviously it tugged at my heartstrings, and it's timely that it came out for Mother's Day. This is definitely a movie you would watch with your mom and like bawl your eyes out the whole time you're watching it, especially if your grandmother is like older or has passed, or maybe like you're older and your mother and your grandmother have passed. Like I think that everyone kind of has that touchstone. Maybe like you maybe don't have like an immigrant story in your family, but like the idea that your mother and your grandmother like contain this cultural legacy, and once they leave us, like that's kind of gone. So like most, I don't know if a lot, if when people are watching this movie that's like the things that they're processing, or they're just like, oh, Vince Vaughn's opening a restaurant with Nonnas, how cute. Maybe, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect to hear Vince Vaughn.
Yeah,
Like I don't know anything about this movie, but when you said Vince Vaughn, I'm like, what? Really? Like that was not the
Susan's
name I would have thought.
Susan I can never Susan Sarandon.
Sarandon, yeah.
Yeah, plays one of the quote unquote Nonnas. So like you quickly learn they're not all like Nonnas, like actually, you know what I mean? Like they're not necessarily grandmothers, but they like fulfill that grandmother role like within their community. And so yeah, like this movie was not perfect. I definitely didn't like the treatment of a particular character. Again, like longtime listeners of the show, they'll watch this movie and they'll be like, oh, they'll be able to pick up the character like immediately that I didn't like. So I won't even bother. I won't even bother describing them, but I felt like that character was a little bit a caricature, kind of like
Mm,
underdeveloped. I did see one review that said the movie shines brightest when like it deals specifically about it, like laser focuses on the Nonnas, and that would have been an interesting story. The focus of the story is definitely like Vince Vaughn trying to open this restaurant, and like
sure.
the Nonnas are like supporting that journey. But there's a scene where Susan Sarandon is like pampering the Nonnas, and like you get to hear a little bit about each of their stories, and the whole movie would have been interesting if it was more like female centric, focused on these four characters, and Vince Vaughn was kind of like the supporting role.
Sure.
Like if it
Yeah.
was reversed, I guess.
Yeah.
Um it was a little bit corny, but it was a pleasant, Mike, it was a pleasant movie going experience. And again, like I think it's a really sweet movie you could watch with your family, and like it would be it would be a pleasant experience. There's nothing in
Mm,
this movie that would be like, you know, sometimes you watch a movie with your parents and it's like, oh, it's a little awkward because there's like particular scenes or whatever. This movie was intergenerational. I think you could watch it with a varied audience, but particularly like watch it with your mom, watch it with your grandma, be
yeah.
prepared to cry. And Vince Vaughn is fine. You know, like I find he's one of those actors, Mike, that I don't think a lot about, and then when I see him in a movie, I'm like, he's fine. He does what he's come to do. He
Yeah.
isn't doing like he isn't doing like slapstick comedy, because this movie is described as like a comedy drama. He kind of plays the straight man, but he's just like a lovable guy just trying to open this restaurant, and he does
Hmm.
fine. You know, like I don't think this is like an Oscar worthy performance, but I don't think Vince Vaughn necessarily is like an Oscar
No. He's a
actor.
serviceable actor. Like
Yeah,
he's always relatively fine in what he does. Some of his movies you can take or leave in terms of like the comedy ones, but I've seen him do some things where I'm like, yeah,
it's fine.
he's serviceable. He works. Yeah.
Yep. So, and then he had nice chemistry with that that Linda Cardellini. They had
Hmm.
nice chemistry. The Nonas had nice chemistry with each other. Joe Manganiello
Oh yes. Joe
plays his
Manganiello.
best plays his best friend. And then this woman is so um familiar to me, but I can't think of anything that she's been in that I've like actually sat down and watched. Trey DiMatteo. I guess she was in Sopranos, but I her face is so recognizable to me. Anyway, she was in this movie too. So there's like a hand, like I don't know if you'd necessarily recognize all of the Nonas, but like it has a pretty stacked cast. Like this is a movie that like 15 years ago would have been in the movie theaters and would have filled the seats. That's how I would describe this movie,
Right.
Mike.
Right.
And instead it just happens to be like a direct to Netflix movie.
Which is the way things are now. There are movies that would have done very well 10,
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago, but now they just go straight to streaming. But I mean, people do find them. When it's good, people talk about them, they recommend it. I think that it does work for people. It does work for some movies. So maybe people will find it. And if you're saying it's good to watch, like with anyone, like with you can watch it with your family, you watch it with your parents. I mean, then it's probably going to get found. I mean,
I think it
it
is.
sounds like a perfect kind of movie for that.
This makes me think, Mike, about last week when I reviewed Black Bag. I think it was last week, and how the director was kind of bemoaning how his movie didn't perform well in theaters, and that 15 years ago this would have been his bread and butter. Blah blah blah. It's getting great reviews, I guess. And he's like, where does this movie live? And it's like, well, it lives on streaming. That's the answer. It's a mid-sized movie with a stacked cast, just like this Nonnas movie. It's not 15 years ago when these movies would have played for like 8 weeks at a theater and it would have, made back its budget. These movies live on streaming now, and that's okay. Maybe. I guess that's what I would say to the director from last week. Like, chill out, man. The money's gonna come. Like, it's gonna perform well. I mean, we can definitely cry about the death of theaters, but I don't think to say like, oh, this movie has no home. I guess, like, I don't know, maybe it just lives on Netflix. It's just like, or like whatever the streaming platform is. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it can work, it can work that it can live on just a platform, and it can work that it can find its home there. There are many movies and shows that are extremely popular that I sometimes forget are just streaming hits, because I think
Right.
it's so much part of our kind of ingrained in our movie going and TV watching experience that some things are going to just find homes on streaming, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It can be a gem of a movie. It can be a gem
The
of a TV
business
show.
model has changed.
That's right. And maybe this is just an example of a movie that is perfect for stream. From what you're telling me, this sounds like a
Oh
perfect
yeah.
rainy day weekend movie. So I don't know.
Exactly. It's a stream it for me. Um it's hard to say, like, I wouldn't, it's like a borderline see it. I think because this movie wasn't perfect and it is a little bit cornier than I would like my movies. It's a stream it. It definitely tugged at my heartstrings. I would be interested to know what other people's take of this movie is who doesn't have such like an emotional connection to the
Mm-hmm.
subject matter. Just like a regular person. It would be interesting to know how they received the movie, but for me it's a stream it. It's a very strong stream it. Watch it with your mom or your grandma on a rainy
Yeah.
day. You'll enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Sounds like a stream it. So my movie is We Live in Time,
What a name.
which is
Is it based on a book?
described. Not that I can tell.
Okay.
I believe it's not. Um, and it's a movie that is described as a romance comedy. Um, I would not describe it as a romance comedy. I would describe it as a romance drama, more so than a
Can I
comedy. I don't
say,
really know about a
is it a
comedy.
spoiler to say what I want to say? I guess you have no idea what I want to say. So I'll just let
I
you.
think what you want to say might have been put in the trailer, so then it wouldn't be a spoiler. Maybe.
Okay, so can I cover
Well,
your
I
ears
don't
if
know.
you
I don't know what you're.
you
You think I know
reviewed.
what you're saying? What do you?
Okay, I'm just going to say it, Mike.
Okay, just say.
This the movie, my understanding of this movie is that it's a quote unquote cancer movie.
Yeah, it is. Yes, and
Okay.
that is revealed in the
Okay.
trailer.
You're like, nope,
This
not
movie
a
is
comedy. Not a
well.
comedy.
This no, not a comedy. And this movie, it had comedic moments, of
Right.
course, like any good drama does.
Like the movie
It's a
with sorry to keep interjecting, but the movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That was
That's right.
like a comedy about cancer, I guess.
That's right. That is right.
The Big Shot,
And
yeah, anyways, go ahead.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That would be more of a comedy. This movie is definitely it's about cancer. It's specifically about two people who, by the normal romance movie happenstances, find each other. So Andrew Garfield's character goes through a breakup. He walks home in absolute distress, and Florence Pugh hits him with her car. And then a romance forms between Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. This movie is not told in a linear fashion.
I'm
It
already
is
out.
told
I'm already out.
in sort of out of time, and sort of bouncing back and forth to different things. It is a romance at its core. Like, the whole movie is about these two people falling in love, getting married, having a child, and all the ins and outs around that. Florence Pugh absolutely is 100% against having kids. Andrew Garfield wants to have kids. And it sort of shows that journey, really, to how they kind of found each other, what their relationship is like. Two very interesting people. Like, she would be described, I think, as like kind of playing against the normal sort of type that you would see in a movie, the stereotype of like, this is the woman in a relationship, this is the guy in the relationship. You would describe her as she's very, very, very like self-absorbed and very much like not really into like having a relationship, wants it to be more casual, isn't really like wanting to settle down, has no sense of a ticking time clock, which is something really interesting that comes up between them as a fight, where he's the one being saying to her like, biologically your clock is ticking, and that creates like a whole big thing where like he's really thinking about those things and wants to settle down and those kind of things. So they're kind of playing against what you would call the stereotypes, I think, that you normally see, which was refreshing and something interesting. And it was such a unique way to kind of frame these two characters, because she's so outspoken and confident and loud, and he's the exact opposite. Like the type of person he is in order to express himself emotionally, there's a scene where he literally has to write things down in a book and then like read them out because he has such a hard time expressing himself.
Right.
And there's this really interesting scene, several interesting scenes where like he's confronting her about things, and at the beginning of their relationship, she gets frustrated with him not being able to communicate and not being able to kind of do these things. But when you see them later in their relationship, you see she's changed tacks with him. She knows how to receive from him. She knows how to wait and encourage and make space and like make him feel comfortable. And you can see these like really interesting nuances of it's like you wouldn't expect it out of this person. And then you can tell that the relationship changed both these people. It wasn't just that they had to change for each other. They grew. Right. And they changed together. And that was really what was interesting, because as you were going through and seeing, like, it would go from a scene where she's pregnant and they're dealing with the pregnancy and there's some fun enjoyment in there, to a scene where early on in the relationship where she's like, I never want to have a kid. Ridiculous. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. To like a scene in the future where they're like kind of having this discussion and she's being so kind and nice to him and letting him, you know, take the time he needs to get out what he needs to get out, to, you know, a fight in the past where she's like angry and upset that he can't communicate at the speed that she wants him to. So it's so really interesting to see the kind of push and pull between these two characters. He like comes out of his shell a lot with her.
Sounds like Challengers. Sounds like you're describing the Challengers movie.
Yeah, but
that's
less
kind of
like
out of time too, right?
Yeah, but I would say with Challengers, they more framed it around the one game that was happening and then flashed back, whereas this jumped around more so. But they did a good job of like telling you where they were, and both, like even like Florence Pugh. I'm sort of explaining how Florence Pugh changed for Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield changed a lot for Florence Pugh as well. He really does come out of his shell, certainly socially. That's the biggest change you see in him. You know, his unwillingness or not being able to be around socially with her friends and her life. She sort of opens him up in a positive way and makes him more healthier with other people and other relationships. And like you see these changes that they kind of do for each other, which is really interesting. And then the sort of cancer bit of it comes into play. As a big part of there are many shifts in this relationship. Having a child is one shift, the cancer is another shift, and you see how these people balance and work through it, and the challenges that kind of come with basically having a life together, having like a true partner. So it was really interesting. Like I did find it interesting because I find these things interesting. Like I find the nuances
humans
of how people
being humans as an alien.
Yeah,
you thought,
that's right. Yeah, as someone who just can't have a healthy relationship to save his life, to watch this is so interesting, because I'm like, oh, like how you're both making these like
changes,
sacrifices and changes, and these core values aren't moving, yet you are making movements and adjustments, and it's awkward at first and there's resistance at first, but this like passion they have for each other and this love they have for each other transcends it. We're both Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, like there's these core values I have, yet I love this other person and I'm now challenging the way I'm thinking and feeling, which I think is a really difficult thing, like for characters to do, to challenge their core. The fact that she ends up having a kid when she was so against it is a change to a core value of what makes a person a person. Challenging those things and changing, Taylor, that's like a tough thing to do. That's a hard thing to do. And I think this movie does a pretty good job of actually
capturing the reality
and capturing that. Yeah, like, and making it feel real. And yeah, if I had any feelings, I think I'd feel emotional about this movie. But of course I don't. So like, it was fun. But I do feel like if you're someone who cries at movies, you would cry at this movie. Like, I think there's enough in here that it would make people feel feelings. I don't feel my own feelings. I try to feel other feelings. So I wouldn't know, but I do think that could be this kind of movie. I
If
do
you
think
were to put on a
you know
human suit, Mike, you'd say,
Right, if I were put on the human
yes.
suit for a minute, I would say yes, this movie did a good job at hitting those points. Very similar to what you're talking about with your movie, where I feel like it's kind of an emotional ride, especially if people could recognize themselves in either of these characters, recognize relationships in either of these characters. And again, I think if you're someone who's married and they get married, they have a kid, they're growing this life together, this sort of the cancer becoming part of it really throws this wrench into this family unit that already had a lot of problems and issues and struggles. It's like
I
one
don't think
more
I could
issue
watch
on
this
top of
movie.
it.
I
I think
don't.
it would be a challenge for some people. I do.
I think
I think it would be.
even if it has a happy ending, like quote like happy ending meaning like she survives the cancer, I don't think I could watch this. Like having a young child, being in a relationship, ooh, too close to home.
Yeah,
Couldn't.
I think this can hit. I think this could hit home for people. Listen, I wouldn't know. So this was as alien as a movie could be. But I think it did a good job. Like I think it was well written. I do think it was well directed. I know you were saying, Taylor, that you don't like the time jumping around thing. I usually don't either, but I think this movie actually did a pretty good job
It works.
of grounding you. And I will admit there were times I'm like, wait, where are we? Like, it's
Right.
this what time? But usually the characters were so different. I think these are two pretty fantastic actors.
Oh yeah.
So,
Like
like,
Florence,
their acting is
I
fantastic.
can't speak so much about Garfield. What's his full name again?
Andrew
Andrew.
Garfield.
I can't speak so much to him, but Florence Pugh, I think, is one of the best actresses working right now.
Yeah, I think she's phenomenal. I think she would be in the top five for me. Remove gender any day of the week. Like she's in the top five for me. Doesn't matter
And from
what
what I
category
hear,
you're.
Andrew Garfield is a
He's
very good
fantastic.
actor.
He's fantastic. He
Yeah.
was very, very good in Tick Tick Boom. I think. I mean, I know it's a superhero movie, but I think the most recent Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
movie where he had sort of a kind of cameo, but also was a big part of the story. His acting in that movie was phenomenal. Like he can do it. The guy knows how to act. Very, very good. Florence Pugh's amazing. So the fact that they're such phenomenal actors, they did a great job on their own telling you where they were in time with just little subtle nuances to changing who they are, how they interact with each other, showing that kind of progression of this relationship. I think what's nice about this is it shows the ups and downs. I've had said to me before that like romantic comedies have like ruined a generation of people thinking of like this is what romance is. I think this movie does a really good job of showing you there are good days and bad days. Even
Sure.
with two people who love each other, there are good moments, there are bad moments, and it's about how you work through those moments that sort of defines the relationship, not if you have them or not. I think too many times it gets caught up in, well, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect from the start. Everything has to be perfect. It can't be hard work, all these things. Well, I think there's a big difference between working hard and hard work. I agree. Maybe it doesn't have to be hard work, but this shows two people who worked hard at it to
Hmm.
kind of make it, to kind of make things work for them. And I thought it did a really good job. Like it felt more realistic, I'd say, than most movies of this type. Where I'm like, I could see these being two real humans. I could see this relationship happening. I could see how this meeting happened. I could see how these two eventually fall for each other. I could see kind of the ups and downs. Two very, very different people who kind of connect. And again, I think that's a testament to good writing, strong direction, and great acting. Like what more could you want from a movie than that?
You rented this movie, right, Mike?
Yeah, it was on Prime because
Right.
that's when I went over to that. I rented it on Prime as opposed to watching Another Simple Favor. So you
Well,
can get it on Prime. It's available.
and sorry, is it a see it or a? I assume it's
Oh,
a see
it's
it.
a see it. Yeah, yeah. I we live in time for me is absolutely a see it. I do think it's a great movie. It's well worth a watch. Yeah, I mean you have to listen. You have to be warned. It's sad for some people. You have to, I think, know yourself, know whether or not you can handle it. It's a sad movie. It's got a lot of good ups and downs, like most dramas. There are comedy and lighthearted moments. Just don't take it for it's a
It's
romance
yeah,
comedy.
it's
It's
not a
not.
rom
It's
com.
not. It's not a rom com. It's a romance drama. It's more of a heartfelt story. But the acting in it is so phenomenal. The work is done. Like again, this isn't even my kind of movie. And if you can get me to be like, oh, that was a good time, then it's gonna be a see it because it's already not my kind of genre. I'm kind of working against my own bias and my own type of movie that I like to see working against that, and yet it worked really well. So there you go.
Cool.
We live in time. It's a see it. I did not find any fan questions while I was poking around. So now's a good time to remind people how to reach us. Our website's going to expire soon, so we'll be getting new things, but it is still screeninginkingston@gmail.com, or you can find us on soul1arts.ca. That's SOL for soul, soul1arts.ca, and you can fill out the form right on the website there. Screeningkingston.com is still operating. You can fill out the website there. You can send us an email or just send us a DM on socials. People do that sometimes. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. You had me at Skip It. Just send us a direct message. But no fan questions so far. It looks like we got through most of the ones.
Our backlog.
I think I marked things. Yeah, we had a backlog. We did 2 or 3 a week. We got through them. So we can get new ones eventually.
If people feel so inclined, write in. You know that it's my favorite thing.
It's your favorite thing, absolutely.
Yeah, Mike does not like the admin side trying to root down, find these questions. You like answering them though, don't you? Guess not.
Sure. Sometimes. I mean, I'd say for the segment of the show that I started, I'm less interested in it than some of the other segments. I think still my absolute favorite
not a great plan.
was not a great plan. Yeah, that was my favorite segment that we never really brought back because headlines went away. We didn't really bring it to the show, but that was always my favorite segment. Was not a great plan. I always thought that was a lot of fun.
You know what, Mike? There seems to be less movie news, as far as I can tell, or at least less interesting movie news. Like, so I still every once in a while bring you a headline and we'll laugh about it and we'll talk about it. But there was a time and place for our new listeners where we could run down 10 crazy headlines a week. Like, I don't think we're getting that anymore, Mike. Or am I just not? Is it not coming across my algorithm?
I don't know if we're just more disconnected, because you would think that like movie news has definitely popped up more now than they used to, because the productions are full swing.
Yeah,
there's
but
no
I don't see any. I don't know. Maybe I have to start prowling the news sites again.
Yeah, maybe.
Or people can mail in their crazy headlines.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe like algorithmically, maybe we're just out of sync. I don't see stuff as much either. I mean, sometimes I do see things, but I just don't remember to either note them or write them down. Like, I'll be on social media. I'm not like a huge scroller.
Yeah,
I try to do it even less now than even I used to. But I'm not a big scroller myself. But sometimes I will see things,
and you think, wow, not a great plan.
Yeah, and I think to note it, that would be something we could talk about, but then I just don't remember to write it down.
Well, start writing them down, and then we can do a hot take.
Yeah. I think maybe I should start doing that, because I do see things. But yeah, I mean, maybe get your algorithm rolling again, and we can try to bring back not a great plan.
I get like the craziest stuff on my algorithm, like on Facebook.
Who knows if it's even true?
Yeah, if it's just AI, a deep fake. But I get the weirdest stuff now. And I think, what article did I read that Facebook thinks that I want to see this? And then what happens when you scroll past it, and then the algorithm takes that as, like, I won't even engage with the post, Mike. Like, I won't like it. I won't open the link. But I scrolled past it, and then like, for the next 5 days, I'm getting headlines about that thing I scrolled past. And it's like, what? Why? What?
Yeah, your algorithm's a little broken there.
Yeah, it is. I do think it's funny that AI thinks it knows humans. It may get sophisticated enough, Mike, that it does know humans. But like, it's the same with like Pinterest, which I'm like dating myself. But like, every once in a while, Pinterest, like, it thinks it knows me, right? And then it throws me a pin, and it's like, no, man, that's not me. What do I just gamed the algorithm.
I have a bone to pick with the algorithm too. It's mainly, so I don't watch YouTube that much, except for like movie trailers, and then the occasional YouTube thing I like from like a reviewer.
Sure.
But I'm not on there that much. But like, every once in a while, I started to watch shorts, like YouTube shorts.
Right.
Because there's a couple like reviews that'll do things. Then like I some comedy stuff, and like SNL will post little things. So I started to do shorts. The amount of commercials that are really skewed towards, I think, my age, because I don't think the algorithm knows me well enough yet. I get some very judgy age related ads that
Is your
pop up on my
hair
YouTube.
is your hair thinning?
Yes, the hair thinning. All that, when I'm just like, excuse me.
Mike, are you signed into your YouTube account, or are you just watching it?
From Gmail.
Yeah, okay. So am I. Sometimes Dan won't be signed in, and he gets literally the craziest things. Like, talk about AI deepfakes and like these weird commercials, like these weird European commercials where they're advertising like fake products, and I'm like, you gotta sign into your account. Not that like Google now like owns all of our data, but at least you're not getting these crazy fake AI commercials when you're signed in. Like, the algorithm isn't perfect, but at least you're not getting these crazy things.
Yes, I will agree with that. It is okay. I would say it makes sense.
Do you think it's but you think
right?
It's like sorry, Mike, you think it's better to not be signed into YouTube?
Well, no, I guess not.
Because
I
then
guess
you're getting the you think
you're getting the
you think
stuff.
your advertisements are bad now, where they're like trying to guess who you are.
Yeah.
When you're not signed in, baby, the ads and the fake ads, they're bananas.
Fair enough. Okay, you made a good point. Fair enough. I just don't like being judged. And
I mean, the hair, you're all right. You don't.
Oh no, the hair's not the issue. I'd be okay if I had less of it, honestly. But I think my algorithms on socials just are not quite in tune to me.
I contain multitudes.
I think it's just assuming my age. Yeah.
I
don't like being judged for one thing, okay? I'm just putting my phone down very violently. I don't like being judged for one thing. I do contain multitudes. I'm not one thing. No one is one thing. Get over it, algorithm. But yeah,
Mike, I know like we've gone really off topic, but I don't understand these people who like get into I'm really interested in learning more about how people get radicalized online and how they do these rabbit hole deep dives on like YouTube or TikTok.
Well,
and the algorithm then like starts.
I gotta say, that's happened to me. Do you remember when I watched that random movie that was like created, I guess, by some kind of more politically Republican guy?
Mm-hmm.
About something about like gender and etc. And I just like randomly watched it, and then of course I did some research on it, and where did I go? YouTube. And then my algorithm started feeling like, oh, now wait a minute, you must want this kind of stuff.
Right.
I got some things for a while. Luckily, it faded out with other things that I watched, but I got some things for a while that I'm like, I hope no one ever sees my
history.
Because it looks really bad.
I guess I have too many niche interests that like don't necessarily overlap, that like it would be very hard for me. I also am not like I guess when I listened to the start of a podcast about radicalization, and I guess part of the problem is like people are like spending like 7, 8, 9 hours on YouTube like watching videos like back to back. That like I don't do that. But then like I might like watch one video that like for work, so like you know, very specific, and then like we go home, my YouTube account is loaded on our TV, so like we listen to like the most random music, and then like I might watch like a true crime and then like a ghost video. So like the algorithm really can't figure me out.
Can't figure you out. That's the thing. We're I think you and I in particular are too interesting for an algorithm.
There you go.
So I don't know how we got on this topic.
That's why an AI movie will never work for us, Mike. We'll sniff it out immediately.
Way to bring it back to movies.
There you go.
Make it work. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for this week. I never know what we're going to do in the weeks to come, but I do want to tease that we're really hoping to bring back some fun stuff that we did on the old show. So maybe stay tuned for that. The summer's a good time to kind of throw some fun stuff at the wall and see what happens. But thank you everybody so much for listening this week.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.